Once you've opened Fusion, the very first thing we're going to need to do is to create a new folder. So create a new folder within your master folder. Call it prosthetic fingers. And then you'll need to go to Compass, download the zip folder that contains these two parts that I bought from eBay, the models of them that I got from GrabCAD. This is the nano on the shield that I've got from GrabCAD, and again this is the servo horn that I've got from GrabCAD. All of those parts are going to be needed later when you start to assemble. The very first part that we're going to look at, based on your sketches, so in here I've got a mount, the finger and a base. They're basically the parts we're going to make up. Maybe a small mount for those switches. But let's just have a look at the finger to start with. I've sort of given myself some rough ideas. These measurements are just guides at the moment because I will probably change some of them to fit models when they don't fit later. So I've sort of looked at a 15mm circle, 12, 10, 8. Distance between 25, 25 and 40. Now the line that would run down the middle of this finger, so if I imagine I joined up all those circles, that line is going to control the shape of the finger. So working on these measurements, let's go back to Fusion. I'm going to, very first thing I need to do is to name it. I'm going to call it finger. Enter. I can probably hide the folder. It's going to start to save that. I can hide the folder structure. I want as much space as I can get here. And my very first job is to click on Sketch. Probably, rather than laying the finger down on the horizontal plane, the ground, I'm going to put it vertical because it's probably going to be that way more in the model later. Now all I'm going to do, this is good modeling practice and it's good for animation or controlling the shape of something. If I control the lines in the middle of the circles on one sketch and then add the circles on another one, it gives me much more control over that finger. So I'm just going to go line. I'm going to draw a line. Before I touch anything else, I'm going to go 40. Then I'm going to go tab. I'm sort of looking at maybe an angle of 45. And I'm going to enter. Then line again, L. I worked out 25 was a good starting point. Hit tab. And I'm going to look at maybe 15 degrees. I'm just looking at my finger, the shape of my finger in front of me. Just estimating the angles and the length of these parts. So I'm going to put 15 there. 15 might need to be just moved out a bit so I can see it clearly. I'm going to hit L again, and the end of my finger. Again, 25, tab, and I'm going to look at something like 20 degrees, and enter. Okay, so my first sketch is just this. So I go OK to that. It's a bit confusing what it looks like at the moment, so if I go back to here, if you imagine I had a circle, 15, 12 circle, a 10 circle and an 8. That's the very next thing we're going to do. But what I've got, I can control the angle of the finger just by controlling these lines. So let's go back and do a sketch on the same plane. Make sure it's on the same plane. And I know what I've got to do. There's a small circle in the middle, so if I hit C, there's a small circle where I've got to put a little screw through to hold the arm in place on the servo. I know that's 2.5. 2.5, enter, enter. My first circle is 15. The next circle, so C, lock on, 12, enter, enter. C, lock on, 10, enter, enter. And last of all, 8, enter, enter. Again, I don't want these measurements all overlaying the circle, it's too confusing, so let's just drag out some measurements. Get them all clear of the object so that I can see them and if I have to adjust them later. What you do is click on them and then drag. Okay, so there's all of the circles that I need for my fingers. But I need the lines that join these. This is the stage you're going to have to spend a little bit of time on. I'm going to zoom in on just these two circles to start with. And I'm going to hit Line Tool. And I'm just going to draw a line somewhere between, it's locked on with a little X, between that line and that circle. Make sure it's locked, it's not sitting out in the open here somewhere. Not worry about the length. Do the same thing here to here. Now these have to be tangent to these circles. At the moment they're not. There's an angle there. So I'll go across to this tool, the tangency tool. I click on it and I say I want that line and that circle to be tangent. This little symbol will appear. I want that line and this circle. Line and circle. Line and circle. So what you have is a perfectly smooth transition of those lines around those circles. Zoom out, zoom in on this next one. Click line. Click to click. Somewhere, it could be here, it could be here. Probably here is a better place. Again, it's already locked onto that by the look of it, but we'll just check. Okay, so I want a tangent between that one and that one. Tangent between that and that. Tangency between this line and this circle. There it is just there. And just to check, I'm going to go this line and this circle. You'll sometimes get an error message saying you've got too many constraints. That's fine. If you do get it, just delete it. Zoom out, zoom in, L for line. Click on both of those. Somewhere over here. Click. I've already got one again that's locked on there. I'm going to go back to tangency tool, line to circle, line to circle, line to circle. Just check. There's that error message there. If you get it, click on it and delete it. Okay, so what I've got at the moment, I've got all of the things. I've got the hole for the mount in the middle. I've got control. There's one little point here. On the servo horn, there's a tiny little circle. I want you to add this one too. It's just to position something. I want C for circle. I want you to lock onto this line. It's a tiny little hole, so it's 1.321. You go enter. Enter again. I don't know where. I need to know a distance from here to here, and it's actually 15.875. So I'm going to hit D for dimension, center of circle, drag it out, click 15.875. Enter, enter. Okay, I've got everything positioned for that finger ready to go now. So I click yes, I'm happy with that. Always click on the little house, just to move everything around where you think you need it. And one last stage is just to give the finger thickness to 3 mm, because we would be laser cutting this. So I'm going to go E. And here you've got to grab some segments. I need all of these segments. I need to make sure that that's going to be a hole, so don't highlight those two there. There's a tricky bit up here coming. I'm going to get all these. These little bits in here are the bit you need to zoom in. I need that piece there. And I need this piece here. Everything should be light blue that I'm going to extrude. And then just drag that out. Type in 3, enter. And you've got a finger that we can use. Perfectly done. I can turn these line works off if it gets confusing. But just to prove a point with being able to manipulate this finger now, if I go back to here and I go edit sketch and I go, okay, no, I don't want 20, I want 40 degrees there. Tip of the fingers move down, same length. Back here, you notice that the tips move down. Again, if I had to control it, edit sketch, I'm going to take it back to the 20 that I had. I can control the shape of that finger perfectly by controlling that line that goes through the middle. So let's just turn that off now. Very importantly, we need to save it. And we're done for that stage. You should see, if you open up the folder, you should see it saving here, and the first part of your robotic hand or your prosthetic finger is actually started to be created.